Man, thanks so much for coming. This is very humbling. The turnout that you guys here are representing, it's amazing. And then for those who have brought friends and guests, welcome to Wheelhouse. I'm so thankful that you guys are going to spend a little bit of your time with us tonight. I wanted to say one thing. First off, y'all look incredibly different with clothes on. Like, okay. And then number two, but no, you look great. But I want to go over just sort of tonight's agenda and role, and then introduce some folks. So I'm going to introduce you guys to an awesome guy, a friend of mine named Thomas, and then obviously I'm going to introduce you guys to Miss Gayle as well. But they're both going to speak, and then after that we'll have a intermission, if you will, a little bathroom break, a little get in line and make your plates for food, right? So then that way you guys can start getting back in your seats, continue eating, and then I'll continue with my last part of the speech and kind of share some things with you guys, okay? MealFit, and this is a gentleman that I met a couple years ago. I know he's been in the fitness industry for years, which coach himself, came from Cookville, Tennessee, but happy to introduce you guys to an entrepreneur of mine, an incredible father, incredible businessman, and just an all-around good soul. Just really connected with him and what he's been doing with food and the different brands that he has for that. So let me introduce Mr. Thomas Cox.
Before we start with all the stuff that we're going to talk about, I want to let you guys know that you have probably the best gym in Birmingham. I'm in 25-ish gyms. If I lived anywhere close to here, this is where I would be. You have an amazing owner. The coaches that I do know are awesome. Shout out to Rain. So you are blessed. You do not have this everywhere. Believe me, I've been a ton of places, and you do not have this, what you have here, everywhere. And so just be thankful, be grateful when you walk through those doors that you have someone smiling at you, someone coaching at you. I'm telling you, you have a special place. And so just keep that in mind as don't take it for granted, is what I'm trying to say. So, okay, so MealFit, what do we do? So, we're into food. Started a long time ago doing food. I coached college football for 10 years. I was not brought into MealFit more than I was called out of coaching. Got out of that, started doing this. I started meal planning back before you can find a meal plan in 30 seconds for free online. We sold them to people in 26 different countries. Got out of that, started doing meal prep, and then started doing catering. We moved to Birmingham from Cookville, and we've been here 4 years. That's the short version. Okay. So what do? We help people make people's lives easier. That's it. We got good food, okay? But we make your life easier. The biggest obstacle that you run into with trying to be healthier, trying to be fitter, is time and effort. Because when those two things get out of whack, it's hard to make good decisions. We help you make good decisions. By you ordering, getting food, you have it in the fridge, you don't have to think about it. We make life mindless. Okay? There's a lot of people in the room, I would imagine, because all I really know is names, not so many faces, that order from us at the gym. But what you do is you order the food. When you order the food, we drop it off here on Monday afternoon. You've got food for the week. It just makes life easier. Food is great. It's wonderful. But you're buying time. It's the only commodity that no one has been able to replicate is time. And so that's what you get when you get with us. It's time and it's convenience as much as it is anything. Okay, so fixing to hand it back off to him. But let me say this. I know about your challenges you're fixing to go through, okay? It's got a lot of similarities to something I went through with 75 Hard. Let me say this. You guys don't know the details of it, but I do. But when you're going through this challenge, if you can be diligent about planning and set yourself up for success at least a day, 2 days in advance, and not have to make decisions on the fly, you will have tremendous success. Number one, okay? Number two, stick with it. It's not easy. He's not easy, okay? He's hard, but that's why you're here and that's why you love him, okay? So plan yourself out, be prepared, but also stick with it. You can do anything for a day, okay? And that's all you really got to do is you've got to be great today and get it done today. After that, you wake up, do it all over again, you got a fresh day to go at it, okay? Really quickly, Does anybody have any questions for me about the food, about anything that we do, anything like that? Yes, ma'am.
By which day of the week do you have to order and when can you pick up?
Wonderful question. Sunday at 2 is the deadline. You pick up the next day here, and it's between 4 and 5. Okay.
Do you do individualized plans?
No, ma'am. We sell the, so good question. I don't sit down with you and say, this is how much you need to eat, this is how much, I don't do that. But there's 20 people in the city of Birmingham that are great at that. You probably have some here in the gym that can do that for you. But the thing that we do also do is we can do the meals with the protein, the starch, and the carb, but we can also do the food by the pound. Okay? This guy is going to eat more than this girl. He is. Okay? Maybe. So we can do food by the pound. So you can buy the chicken by the pound, rice by the pound, broccoli, and different things like that. There's a whole list of things over there you can buy by the pound because, again, this guy's going to eat more than she is, and so he's going to need more. And so it's hard for him to eat just one of the meals. 4.5 ounces of protein, half a cup of this, half a cup of that. That's great, but he might need more. So individualize. You can individualize it yourself that way. So anybody else? Yes.
Yep, business card.
I do. I've got all the information is up there when you go by to get food. You can get all that there.
Most popular ranch some fields.
The special always, so that's a good question. So we have the same, 90% of the menu is the same every week, okay? I feel like, I go to the grocery store, I don't know about y'all, when I go to the grocery store, I buy the same things every week. Y'all, you do. We're creatures of habit. So 90% of our menu is the same, the meals, and then food by the pound. But we also have 2 items that are new every week, okay? So the 2 new items are the most popular just because people like to try. But people always buy the pound items. That's by far the most popular, just because you can do anything with it. You buy rice, you buy chicken, you can have Mexican one night, you can have Asian one night, you can have Italian the next night. It's all the same. Chicken's all the same rice. So, anybody else? Yes, sir.
What's on the menu for tonight?
We have green beans, a little seasoning in there. We have our jasmine rice. If you've ever had jasmine rice, it's probably one of the most popular items. Kaneka sausage, I heard of it, and chicken. And then we have our Alabama ivory sauce and our homemade ranch. Both sauces are homemade. So, good fun meal. Anything else?
How long have you been doing this?
Started meal planning in 2013. Been back in Birmingham since 2017. So 2013, 2017, we were in Cook Form, and we grew dramatically. Business is more months in that time. But we've been in Birmingham for 4.5 years. So we started the business in 2013. So, yes, sir.
When you get the ingredients on Monday,
Yes, sir.
are they all like parsed out, or is it all the ingredients with just instructions of what to cook?
No, it's already cooked.
Oh, it's all cooked.
Yeah, I mean, it is mindless.
And like every meal is set aside?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I mean, it's the easiest thing to do. I have a lady that has 5 kids, and I looked at her, and she orders this meal after meal after meal after meal. And I said, Amy, order the food by the pound. I said, all those kids you got is cheaper. I said, just order the food by the pound. She said, no. She said, I pull it out of the microwave and I hand it to them as they're walking out the door. She does. She's got 5 kids. 4 of them are boys. 1 of them is a girl. And they're all playing, 14 sports and things like that. And she just hands the meals as they're going, and then they go eat on the run. So we make her life easier. So, what else? Yes, ma'am.
Do they go in the oven or do they have to have a microwave?
Sure, you can put them in the oven. You just have to take out a container that's in.
Okay.
Yeah, no big deal. Yeah. Very good. What else? Great. You got it.
Thank y'all so much. Thank you. All right. Hey, I'm excited about dinner. So, what can I say about Gayle Lantz? She's like shaking her head. Who knows Gayle? Who works out with Gayle? Just a beast, right? I've known Gayle for 6 years, I feel like, maybe more, something like that. But they really didn't get to know her, and sort of all she does from a professional standpoint until our podcast. So Gayle's got a very popular. She's I forget what episode number it is, but it's one of the early ones because I knew I gotta have you on. I want to hear more about what you do. Gayle runs a company called Work Matters. And she has 20 years of experience, if not more, you have to correct me, Gayle, but working with C-suite leaders. And she basically goes in and helps those CEOs and executives grow themselves, and then they in return will grow their team, whether it's through innovation, whether it's through hiring, all the things. It's a big deal. I know she hates it when I say that, but it's a big deal. Working with some really big brands. And so, man, I'm just really excited whenever I said, hey, Gayle, would you be a part of this goal setting workshop? And she said yes. Like, I was like so humble and just thankful. So without further ado, let's go. You want to put the mic up?
Test.
Oh.
I'm gonna grab the mic because I think it'll record better this way too. It's worth recording. I'm so excited to be here, and I just want to say thank you to all of you for showing up. But more than that, I've been here for a few years training, and I make almost everybody in the gym coach me because I need a lot of help. So I hope today I can give back a little bit and share some insights. I'll share a little bit more of my story. If you could just walk away with even one insight or a tip or a perspective that's shifting, then that can make a huge difference for you. So I'm prepared to share a few practical tips, but also just kind of some philosophy about how to think about goals in the context of your life and what you really want to achieve. Does that sound okay? And we're gonna have more of a conversation. I really don't like presenting. But I'll kickstart our conversation with just a little backstory. Okay, have any of you been to Atlanta? It's not advancing, is it? The slides?
Of course, this is.
Okay. Okay. I can still keep talking.
Oh,
There's,
Something
okay.
happened.
All right.
okay, there it is. All right, so right there.
We're in Atlanta, yeah. So people have been to Atlanta. Has anybody lived in Atlanta? A few people? Okay. So I'm from Birmingham, but I went to college in Atlanta. I spent my professional career in Atlanta. Atlanta's a big, busy city. For those of you that are familiar with the landscape of Atlanta, I worked at the top of the perimeter. There's a big perimeter that goes around the city. The two towers, Queen Tower here, King. I was in the Queen Tower, close to the top floor. I was working in the insurance and financial services industry, traveling a lot, a real kind of fast-paced job that I was in. And so, and this was, my first job. I just thought this is what we were supposed to do. Everybody just travels like I did. So, if you're familiar with Atlanta and the perimeter, here's a big circle. The top of the perimeter's up here. Here's where the big office building was. I lived in Midtown in the center, and y'all can't see. And the airport was somewhere around here. So, in my role in Atlanta, I served the whole Southeast Territory. I was based for a New York company, or the headquarters was in New York. And I ended up going sometimes from New York to Puerto Rico to Kentucky all in 1 week. It was crazy. I just thought that was normal. So I was traveling so much that I could practically do that in my sleep. Sometimes I'd be coming from the office. Well, I remember one morning, I was coming out of the office, in the car coming down here, and I could do it in my sleep. The car should have taken the exit. But instead, I got down here and I missed the exit. And my flight, I kept going around, just kind of like in this fog, like around and around until finally I woke up and thought, oh my gosh, like I missed like how could this possibly happen? I'd become a Delta million miler before I turned 30. It's crazy how much traveling I was doing. So I woke up in that moment. I remember kind of looking in the sky. It's so vivid, and I thought, first of all, I just missed the flight, but I remember thinking, I don't have to do this anymore. Like, I don't have to stay on this path, going in the same circle. This kind of became a metaphor for me. Like, I can think of something else that I want to do that will help get me out of this lifestyle that I had, because it was really wearing on me. And so as I thought through the options, that's what eventually propelled me to start my own business. I started thinking, I can't be this only person in this career pattern where I feel stuck or frustrated or burned out. And I looked for help. I sought out an executive coach to help me figure out what I wanted to do. And he said, I think you'd be kind of good at doing what I do. From there, that's all it took was planting the seed. And I just started studying, how do people go through change? How do they make decisions? What do they consider at different points in their life? And I trained under a kind of a guru of life work planning. His name is Richard Bowles. He wrote a book called What Color's Your Parachute, which is what a lot of people have used as a resource. So all that is to say, I care a lot about helping people focus on what really matters, sometimes to make really difficult decisions like that. But over the course of my business and working with a lot of clients, sometimes they're working on goals that don't have to impact everything, but I'm just helping them see what matters to them, given where they are in their life and their work, and helping them move forward in their own unique way. And I don't think there's one way to do it. So I just wanted to set that scene and let you know that I feel like I've come so far, and I love the work that I'm doing now because I'm creating it as I go. And I continue to orient myself around what interests me most and plant goals that are aligned with what I truly care about, what I'm truly interested in. So, I'm guessing some of you have a goal that you might be thinking about for this year. Some of you don't. You've said before, I don't even know what kind of goal I have. So, do anybody, by show of hands, do you have goals? Anybody have goals this year? Okay, a few of you? Not sure? Okay. So, just think about it for purposes of this session. What's a goal that you want to achieve this year? And I'll just have you state that with whoever you're sitting around, in a group of 2 or 3. One goal that you want to achieve this year. And for those of you who don't know what you want to have as a goal, answer this question. If you did know, what would you think it would be? Okay? So I'm going to give you like 2 minutes to share a quick goal, each of you a minute apiece. Share what's your goal for the year. And if you did know, what do you think it might be? Can I have you answer that? All right. Did anybody have a cool goal? Did anybody hear somebody in their group or that has a cool goal? What's the goal? Oh, okay. That's good. Goal here.
We actually both want to qualify for nationals or wanting to.
Can't hear you. Both want to qualify for nationals?
Yeah, for powerlifting.
For powerlifting? An Olympic? Oh, you're going to do it. I can't wait. Okay. Any other cool goals? They don't have to be inspiring goals. Any goal counts. So, what you've just done is one of the most important things that you can do when it comes to setting goals is just talk to people. When I was getting back on my loop and my epiphany about how I can't do this anymore, but I know there's something new for me to do, I kept my job for a little while, but I would just talk to strangers on the plane. Just saying, yeah. They'd say, what are you doing? I'm in financial services, but I think I'm going to do something else. Like, you shift the conversation toward what you want, not where you're stuck or what's happening now. You take control of the conversation, you talk about what you want. As much as you know, even little pieces, even when it's not clear, you just begin talking about what you do know. And people would ask me questions and it would help me gain more clarity in that process. So I encourage you to do that. So here's some of the practical tips. You can increase your chances of reaching your goal by 10% if you just set a goal. Like, just set it. You can increase your chances of reaching your goal by 25% if you make a commitment to that goal. You know people who say a goal, but then you can tell when there's a commitment. They use language like, I'm doing this, not like I'm going to try to qualify, but I'm committed to doing that. It feels different, right? So really committing to that can boost that. Stating your commitment to someone else, which is what you just did. You're already 65% more likely to achieve that goal. And then, of course, the best way is an accountability partner of some kind. It could be a friend, spouse, whatever, coach. To meet with someone on a regular basis is 95% more likely that you'll achieve what you want because you keep that accountability going. And one that I didn't include, too, is if you write down your goals, studies show that you're more likely to achieve them. And so these are just some interesting statistics that I thought would be good to share with you. I just have recently put in a practice where I spend like almost an hour a month on my goals, setting 90-day goals. Just did that this week. And so it's believed that setting 90-day goals is actually an ideal time frame because if you think about a year, what happens is it kind of goes off the radar a little bit, and then toward the end of the year, like, hey, this was my goal, and you push yourself. Or you've forgotten about it and you've given up. But 90 days is far enough out where you feel like you can really see that far ahead. In today's times, you can really see a week ahead, I know, but 90 days is good. So what I observe is a lot of people kind of setting goals in their comfort zone. And I think where to play is out of your comfort zone. Clearly, I wouldn't even be here as a member of this gym if I didn't think that. I'm flying out of my comfort zone every day. But I think that if you can begin to accept the fact that there's going to be fear involved and you can push through it, then you're going to find more, you're going to accelerate your process, you're going to establish bigger goals that you didn't think were possible. So I encourage you to be aware of where you're setting your goals and to stretch yourself, to be willing to receive feedback. When I'm here, I've become practiced in receiving feedback too. I've been working a lot more over there, and these coaches, Zachariah, you've worked with me the longest, and I've learned his feedback through his eyes. We joke that he just rolls his eyes. It's like, oh, okay, but I get the message. And then MJ's been trying to help me, and his feedback, he looks down and just shakes his head like. And then Dakota, is Dakota here?
No.
He's not here?
He's under the letter.
All right, well, so
Say whatever you want.
We don't talk about that.
So he and I have not worked together that long. He's a lot more verbal with his feedback. He'll go, you got to stop that. I know I'm being videoed, so you can fill in the blank. Okay. So I love the coaches, I'm just kidding. But you have to be in this space where you just know that you're going to get some feedback that can sting or that, can hurt, but that's part of the growth. That's where the learning is, and then ultimately that's where the growth is. So just to keep that image in mind. This is just another image I love to share, and I reflect on a lot because I think this is kind of how we go through life. We start here, like baby Olivia, Lindsay baby. And then over time, we kind of create these shells that we think we need to fit into based on our experiences or where we are in our lives. And so a lot of times, I think it's important to break through this mold, to not necessarily force fit yourself into what you think you should be. A lot of people that I'm working with, they've got all these layers that have been built around them over the years based on who they think they should have been, based on what their parents told them or what the culture has said that they should be. And so it's important to recognize that, but sometimes when I'm working with clients, they have a hard time kind of unpacking, well, wait a minute, who am I really now? What do I really want? Can anybody relate to that? Am I the only one? You? Yeah? So, When you're setting your goals, be careful not to fall into the trap of simply just continuing this pattern of just doing the same thing, right? Going around and around, doing the same thing that you think you should be doing. And be willing to break a mold, create a new doll. Do something that is really reflective of who you are as a person. I struggled with that a long time, when I tried to fit myself into the corporate mold for so long. And then when I became an entrepreneur, it's a whole different identity that I had to kind of find my way. And now I don't even know what to call it. Doesn't even matter. I'm just creating what I want to do. So, be sure that you're creating goals that are really authentic to who you truly are. Okay, so to help you do this more easily, I have a handout for you. And it's online, you can download it. And just fair warning, when you go to my site, it'll have a pop-up like, hey, you want to join my list? You don't have to. But this is a PDF document that you could download right now and follow the comments that I'm going to be sharing. I also have a few hard copies for people that don't want to download, or does anybody want to share if you take a couple or pass around? I had no idea there was many people. I only have like 10. So maybe some people would appreciate a paper copy or something or something. So I'm going to move fairly quickly through these. And just get your input as we go along. Stop me if you have questions. This is going to be rapid fire tips from Gayle. So first of all, know your why. When I'm working with clients and they share what their goal is, often the next question I'll ask is, why is that important? Sometimes they can tell me, sometimes they can't. Because it's one of those goals that they've been doing on autopilot. So know your why. When you share your goal, like any of you who've already shared your goal with this group, like why is it important for you to achieve that goal that you shared?
It's really scary.
Because it's scary? Why is that important to you then? To do things that scare you?
Yeah, challenge myself.
Why do you like to challenge yourself? That's how you grow? Okay. See, I'm going deeper and deeper. Like, don't accept at face value. Don't worry. But I'm just trying to model the importance of not accepting the first goal that's put in front of you, or that you're thinking about, or that you hear from other people. Establish a range. Even when I'm lifting over here, I can never do that. Say that I'm lifting 45. Like, don't wait. Do something today or tomorrow that's a small step that'll help you move forward. Otherwise, you'll keep talking about it, and it'll kind of linger out there, and you won't make the progress that you want to. Create the best environment to support you. And that's in every aspect. Physically, socially. Who are you hanging out with that's also caring about the same kind of goals that you're working on? That's why it's so great to be here, because we all care about getting strong and fitness, among other things here at the gym. So this is a great environment for that. But what is it that you in terms of friends and beyond the social aspects of the gym that we have here, what are the environments that serve you best? Also physical environments. If you're going to think somewhere and you need to be planning, I can tell you, like, get in a different environment. Don't be in your same environment. You do the same thinking in your regular environment. So if you run a business, go off-site, do something that's radically different, and you'll stir up different thinking. Create a tangible reminder of your goal. A picture, vision board, an object, something that is in front of you. When I first wrote my first book, I brought a copy. I did it 10 years ago. It's called Take the Bull by the Horns. I just did a copy, I just did a book cover first before I wrote the book, because it motivated me to have a tangible something in front of me to get it done. My next book is going to be Stop Taking the Bull by the Horns, just so you know. It doesn't have to be so hard. But whatever you're working on, think of some kind of representation of that vision that you can keep in front of you. Be as specific as possible, and know how you'll know when you've achieved it. Because you'll hear people say, yeah, I want to be healthier, right? Or I want to be more social, or I want to be whatever the goal is, but how will you know that that's really happening? What will be your measures of success? Oftentimes people miss that part. Acknowledge small progress. Our brains need that dopamine. We need to see that we're making progress. So the more you can measure and track it, the better you'll feel. Look at the gain, not the gap. Too many times we're looking at, I'm not where I want to be. I'm too far from my goal. When you look back a year ago and see how far you've come, haven't we come far? I know we don't feel like it, but think about where we were a year ago. I know in some respects it still feels like we're in the same place given the pandemic, but you're not. Don't compare yourself to other people. Easier said than done. We all do that as human beings. But if you've got a goal you're serious about, make it your own. Don't look around you. And then finally, laugh at yourself, to practice self-compassion. I think lightening up and finding ways, that's what I have to do sometimes, as you know, to get through some of the stuff I'm doing here, is just keep things light, but it applies to every aspect of your life, is to find humor, find some levity, to help make you move through the goals more easily. So any questions about the tips so far? Are any of you doing these things? Nope. Yeah?
Yes.
What's working for you? Anybody?
I do a lot of these processes for my job
Mhm.
as a designer because you have like a goal of what you want your image to be. So kind of like putting up an image of what your goal is or what you want as like tangible aspects is kind of like a step along the way.
Yep. Good. Anybody else has a tip that's working or one that's not on the list?
Consistency.
Consistency. So that's a decision that you make. That's the trick to being consistent.
Make yourself do it when you don't want to.
Yeah, it goes back to that commitment, right? Like, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm not trying, I'm doing it. All right, some of the problems that I see, and working with a lot of people and myself too, sometimes you're just not envisioning the first step. Do you know that a lot of people feel like they have failed when they're reaching a goal because they're not thinking about the first step? We're taught, oh, envision that big goal, keep it in front of you, make sure that that's, out there, you see yourself, finishing the marathon, but what is the very first step? You have to picture yourself starting, picturing the small steps that you take at the beginning. Another challenge, beliefs and actions are not aligned. Where you say you want it, but deep down, you may not believe that you can actually achieve it. Does anyone have a goal, but they doubt that they'll achieve it? Or won't admit it? Good, because you're so committed already. Good. You're doing great. Okay, here's one of the biggest things. People arguing for their limitations. Can somebody give me a bunch of reasons why they think they can't achieve something?
They're scared.
Yeah?
I would.
Yeah? Yeah, so I can't do that because it's too scary. What's another limitation that's
They don't have
come?
time.
Yeah, I don't have time.
How do you start? Where do you begin?
Yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start.
There's no one around them who's done it before, so they only see the limit within their community or wherever their main social circle is, because no one's ever branched out or...
Right, this is all I know. I can't do that because this is all I know, right? Any other good limitation examples? It's
Friends
good
and
that-
family, usually.
Friends and family? Yep. That they may not see what you want to achieve.
Or don't encourage, or just, what are you thinking, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, mine did that when I started my business. So that's great, Gail. How are you going to get health insurance? Blah, 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 blah. All of that. Yeah, so you have to practice arguing why you can achieve it and talking about that. Now, it's almost like talking over that. It's hearing those arguments from people who don't get it, don't support you, whatever, and just talk over that. Here's why. Here's what I'm doing. Not even out loud, but just mentally know that you're arguing for reasons why you can achieve something. Sometimes you're in the right goal, you have the right goal, but it's the wrong approach. I was talking, I guess Scott and I were just talking about his approach to goal setting. He's got these like different buckets and categories, which works well, especially for analytical types. I see things a little more integrated. I think like this, there's the big umbrella of life, and everything kind of fits under that in terms of how I roll. So the way that Scott focuses on his goals may be different from mine. But having your goals kind of delineated like that can be helpful. And I do have specific goals where I have different people who are supporting me in each of those areas. I have a book coach that's helping me work on my book. I have the strength coaches here, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's the right goal, but it's wrong timing. This is so huge. Sometimes I have a goal, but depending on what's going on in my life, it's not the right timing. Right now, my mom, who's ill, I can't push forward on the goals like that. My dad, who passed away over 10 years ago, was in hospice for a year. I kept trying to push myself in my business during that time to the point where I thought, this is ridiculous. I can't even focus on my business. He was so ill, and it was so jarring. And so I kind of put my business on hold during that time. And I flew to Chicago and I met with the Alzheimer's Association because he had Alzheimer's. And I was following what my instincts were telling me to do to learn about a cause that I cared about. And that turned into a whole other kind of wonderful scenario that was temporary. But learning about something that I cared about at the time was so much more important to me than my business. So I had to let the business goals go. Sometimes I would go to a speaking engagement. My dad was so sick, and I'd be like, please, hold on today. And it was hard, at the time, in retrospect, my goal should not have been to try to push myself in the business as much as I did. We're all in different seasons of life, too. So you have to consider that. Those of you with big young kids or whatever, your goals may not reflect what somebody else's are because you're in a different season, right? So just be careful about the goals that you're setting and be sensitive to the timing. Okay, so some other suggestions before we move on real quick. Set goals that you really want, not that you think that you should want or that others think you should want. Move from your head to your gut. A lot of the people I work with, super smart analytical types, engineering types, and they're so good at problem solving. And having to really identify what you want in your heart, what you truly want, takes some space to do that. Again, to get out of here, I had to keep going and going until I got my wake-up call. So being able to really do that and get out of your head can help so much. When you're stuck, go back to your why. Why am I doing this? Why is this important? Do it your own way. We're all wired differently. So you can have one goal that I may approach one way, but someone else may do it very differently, and that's perfectly fine. Sometimes, I have trouble being organized, I'm sure it's obvious. But I hired a professional organizer. A professional organizer came over and she said, well, here's how I do it in the mornings. I do this. And I said, well, good for you. That won't work for me. I'm a creative thinker. This is how I operate. So you have to understand and accept that you're wired in such a unique way. To find your own path is important, and not try to force fit yourself into stuff that other people do that just doesn't work for you. It's not a reflection on you. If you're not clear, which is what I hear a lot of times, I'm not sure what I want, I'm kind of thinking about this, start taking action anyway, because the clarity will come when you're taking action. You can't course correct unless you're moving towards something. So don't overthink things, don't feel stuck, just take action that helps you move forward. Sometimes you need to abandon your goal, which I've had to do too. Like I mentioned, I had to kind of abandon my business goals temporarily. And then finally, think of pursuing your goal as learning. It's just learning. You're able to get data, insights, information, and like I said, it doesn't reflect on who you are as a person. So I'll get back to the big goals that I want you to talk about in just a minute. But just some final thoughts before I wrap up. Sometimes you do have to to let go of some things to make room for new things to come into your life. And so that's one question on your mind, that should be on your mind, is what can I let go of this year? When you think about goals, you think that's almost like, okay, what more can I do? You're putting more on your plate or something different. So think about some things that you might need to let go of to make space for that. Sometimes you might sense some resistance too. Right? Have any of you, do you experience resistance? When you set a goal, but there's just like, that fear
Then I got a divorce and then this kind of stopped.
Yeah, the resistance is telling you something. So you've got to push through that. Get curious about it. Don't let it stop you. But this is often what it feels like when you're going for a big goal. It's like, okay. So here's another visual to keep in mind too. And I know, Rain, you've seen this one. Where if you just take those steps, the easy steps that I mentioned, just the small steps there, too many times we're making a big deal thinking this first step is so hard. It's such a big leap. It's got to be something, monumental. No. Just look how far this little pond is up on the ladder. So it's just doing that little, simple, easy steps consistently, little by little. Figure out what those are. And here's counterintuitive advice. Sometimes you just have to put the oars down. In goals, pushing for goals, there's so much pressure to feel like we're accomplishing, doing, achieving. But the real clarity around your goals will probably come when you're most still. When you have a little time to think, a little space. So don't push. Don't take the bull by the horns. You really can sometimes, but it's just important to create that space. And then, like I said, to just keep things light. It may be an image, something that you go to in some of your challenging moments. I know that one image that I like to keep in front of me was inspired by my son. He graduated last year. He lives in New York City now. But when he was in college, I think it was freshman year, we were going back and forth. He was spending money on stuff, and I ended up making all these crazy decisions, and we were texting, and all this kind of angst going back and forth in our communication. And then there was this pause, and then he sent me this text. So, how am I to deal with that? It just makes me laugh. And so, whatever it is for you, find something that you can return to, memory, person, something inspiring, to keep things light in this process. I think that's what life is really all about. I look forward to hearing about the exit that you might take, not literally, I'm not suggesting you leave your job, but what is it that's going to shift for you? What is it that you're doing here that feels the same, like you're going through the same loop, day after day, week after week? What is going to be your wake-up call? What is it that's going to, I think the good thing is that we can all take, like that was the thing, I got to take another exit, which is an on-ramp into something new and better and different. So to not be afraid to kind of break this pattern and go for what you really want. So what other questions do you have about what I've shared so far? And I've done kind of unloading here. Where are you stuck? Yeah.
What is your advice to helping someone discover their why?
My advice for helping someone discover their why is a couple of things. Sometimes it takes reflecting on their past and what they've experienced and the meaning that they make of that. Because one of my whys for being in this gym, I have a lot of whys. I'll just use myself as an example because I know that person the best. I had a winging scapula injury, that I thought, I'm gonna be strong. It's like a baseball injury, where you're something just not strong back there. So I'm gonna get stronger. But I also, my why here is my dad who had Alzheimer's. I care a lot about brain health now more than ever. So that's part of my why. I'm reflecting back on that. Just in terms of just wanting to be physically fit and strong anyway. So I think if you reflect back on some of the most difficult experiences, that can actually inform your why. And then I keep asking the question, what's most important to you now? So a lot of people are just regurgitating what they're used to saying. And it's okay to say, what was not important, what used to be important is different, or here's something, that's important to me now. So reflecting on the past can be one way to do that. And also, spending time in a different environment can give you some insights too. Just helps you think differently and get in touch with that too, along with just having the space and the quiet time too. Those are some ideas. Yes?
This might dovetail with that, but when you ask the question, what are your goals? I've always had no issue with that because my goals were always very quantitative in terms of sales and profit.
Yeah.
They were very much in the forefront of my thinking. Every January one was all mapped out. And I don't live in that world anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's the softer goals, and it's very hard for me to make that transition to like the number one goals, like what's my purpose almost. It really devolves from ultra quantitative to a very soft.
Super touchy-feely, yeah. Yeah, and I think that's okay. Sometimes we don't even have the words to articulate. A lot of times I'll ask clients, like, well, what will you feel? What do you want to feel? I'm working with one client just last week. He's in financial services. He said, I really want to get a pulse on all my clients. He's been saying for months he's going to put his client list together and work that list, but he hadn't done it. And so finally I said, why haven't you done that? And he said, well, I said, why is it important to you? And he said, well, I want to provide good services. I said, why is that important? Because I don't know I don't know if they're satisfied with our services or not. And then finally I said, why is that important to you? And he said, I just want peace of mind. So he wasn't, to your point, wasn't motivated by the, like, you need to have 20 clients on this list. He was able to say, I'm looking for peace of mind right now. And then he could make the connection to that activity that he was doing. I think given the pandemic and all that we've been through, a lot of people are thinking more deeply about what they want and what really matters to them. I don't think that purpose is something that you can necessarily go out and discover. I think it's something that emerges from you, and I think the path to doing that is following what your natural interest and curiosity is. And so, again, that's just how I've chosen to live my life, and just to trust the unknown too. That's really hard for human beings because we want to set a goal, and here's the plan, right? If you can master being in the unknown and seeing how things unfold, then it opens up huge possibilities that you haven't even considered. You kind of let go. So I think what you're speaking about, though, is so common for so many people now in so many ways. They can't say exactly what it looks like to achieve it, but they can often express what they want to feel. Yeah.
You talked about resistance a little bit ago. Sometimes can resistance be a natural instinct to tell that it might be for your good, that it's when do you know that, okay, is this your instinct telling you not to do it for your own good, or do you actively pursue that goal despite? Sometimes fear can work towards your favor.
Yeah.
If you fear something and if it might not be in your best interest to do something.
Yeah.
When do you decide, okay, I want to push through it and go through it, or listen to your instinct? Mm-hmm. And maybe that might be the better idea for you in the long term.
Mm-hmm. My thinking, because I know there's some people say, just push through it, do it anyway. I think if you're to a point where you're really fearful or there's so much resistance kicking in, pull back a little bit and try to align your thinking to the point where you can get to that point where it's not an issue for you. To me, it's a sign that maybe a little more work needs to be done to make sure that you're really ready for that step, whatever it is. So I think there's a situational response. It depends kind of on what's going on with you. But I think that resistance that's the opportunity to be curious. You know, why is that what I'm really afraid of? But I would say, yeah, just go through it anyway, because I think it goes back to your beliefs that have to be aligned with your actions. If your beliefs really aren't there, if there's still so much resistance, then I think that it doesn't set you up for success in many cases. Yeah.
Do you limit the number of goals you work on in a 90-day period, or?
I wouldn't, the question, do you limit the number of goals? I don't think that the number matters as much as the quality of what they are, depends on what you're working on.
Yeah. I feel like I always work on too many.
Yeah, well, a lot of people do, and a lot of people have everything hitting them all at once, and it's hard for them to prioritize. I think goal setting is helpful because it helps you prioritize better, so that you can then deflect things easier. So that's another, argument for setting a goal, because you have that clarity. And by the way, there's another resource that I have on my site. It's a prioritizing grid for people that are analytical thinkers and who like to go through a grid to come up with what your priorities are. I think it's at workmatters.com/prioritizing. I'll contact that, whoever's interested in that. So yeah, I don't think the number matters really as much as the nature of what it is that you're working on. I would only say make sure you're working on what you really, really want to be working on to the extent that you can. Yeah.
So, what would you say, let's say myself, I have one experience. I thought myself on the same circle, and I finally took an exit, but right now it's like, it's not clear what's next. And what could be helpful to find the next step. As I do, just like her, I do have a few goals, but they're like, sometimes because they're, okay, let's say a handful, single goals, big goals, it's kind of like prioritizing, it's hard to deal with when you're not sure what you really want to do first.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, it's just kind of accept being in that space. Don't try to force it, just pick something. But it's an opportunity to be in conversation and to be looking for clues, to talk to more people, maybe to learn a little bit more, to see where you start kind of naturally moving. And so I think you have a real opportunity to be kind of in an exploratory mode and say, I don't know yet, but here's an idea that I'm considering. So you can test out some ideas beautifully that way, but to take the pressure off yourself to have everything figured out, you'd be amazed, because it's suddenly then the sign is right there in front of you that you may have been missing, right? When you stop pushing, trying so hard, it's just right there. Yeah. With that? Okay.
After a huge success, right, business process, you set your goal, you achieve your goal, right?
Yeah. Yeehaw.
Go.
Woohoo.
And where I'm stuck at now is
Now what?
now what?
That's the best place to be.
Okay. I feel very uncomfortable here.
So what I experience, what I see happening is the need to really look at the beliefs that you're telling yourself about where you are right now. And so that's where I would start, is instead of saying I'm uncomfortable, like, okay, I have an opportunity right now that I'm figuring things out, to speak positively about what you're doing, to not self-sabotage. Like, I'm uncomfortable, I don't know this, I've had huge success and now I don't know. Like, start talking about, I'm moving towards something that I'm sniffing out the trail, figuring things out. I'm going to land on something. Do you hear the difference in how you're talking to yourself? So, I know we're going to wrap up. So, if now what? Don't just walk away from here and not do something, right? So, some possibilities might be to schedule some time to think, to talk to someone, friends, family, whoever, someone you trust about what's on your mind. Write down your goals, including measures of success. Develop some kind of visual representation. You might want to create your decision filter. I didn't talk a lot about that, but how will you know that it's the right thing? Like for me, I know more like I'm going to be engaged in things where I'm learning, where it's fun, where I'm around people that I enjoy. Like, what is your criteria? And then explore your strongest interests. That's the latest thing. So, thank you for listening. And one final thing, is Nick here? Nick on this podcast that he just did with you. You talked about your struggle with goal setting. I want to admit, I know he hates being on the spot because he feels awkward, but I have a leadership journal that I created that talks about how you can set weekly goals, and I just want you to have this because I think that you were so vulnerable with your story.
Yes, Nick. Speech.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been through a lot of stuff in our lives, and to take it and set goals around it and to be committed to doing things, I think is just really inspiring. So just want to acknowledge Nick and all of you again. Thank you again for helping me so much here and making it such a great experience. I know we're being videos, so if anybody's not at Wheelhouse, they need to be here, right? Yeah, and I want to hear what you're working on. I love talking to people about where you're going or what you're even thinking about, or even if you're confused. If I can be of informal help, let me know. So it'll be a great year. Well, thank you.